YouTube. I want to talk about a little subject that I see a lot on videos and live chats, and hear a lot of people talking about what I like to call, if it's not broken, don't fix it. They do research, they buy a fish. Let's use cichlids for example. Cichlids come from an environment where they need higher pH. That's the environment that they were bred in, lived in. But all the fish that we get now are generations away from the originals, and then the hobbyists refer to. So your F1 is the original fish that lived in the environment. Your F2, your F3 is all the fish that we see in the fish store, who were not born and bred in the wild from where they're from, in Africa. All these fish do not know what it is to be in their natural environment, where their ancestors came from, so to speak. Yes, you do need to provide them for an environment that they're used to, okay? But the fact of that matter is where they're used to is in fish farms, where they're raised, bred, and then sold to box stores like Petco, PetSmart, and they get shipped over there. But they were born and bred in the same water. And when those fish go to these box stores and your mom and pop stores, they're not going to adjust their tanks to each individual fish's needs. They don't have time for it. They don't have money for it. They would lose an incredible amount of money if they had to cater to each fish's individual needs. They can't do it. I am a big believer in, once you buy a fish and you bring it home, yes, if you're putting that fish into a display tank that you already have fish in it, you're going to want to quarantine it from anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. 2 to 4 weeks. You want to quarantine that fish, because if they have something, you might not even see it. And if they do have something, they could spread it to the fish in your other tank. You don't want to do that, so quarantine them. However, if you have a tank, you just set up, you cycled it, it's ready to go. You bought the fish, you bring it home, you can put it right in the tank and monitor them that way. If you're worried about it, you can add a little aquarium salt in there per the recommended dosage, and just monitor them, see if they're going to be okay. But you also want to assimilate the fish. When you bring it home, you got it in the bag, let's go ahead and let it float so it can warm up the temperature, so the temperature isn't a shock to them. They warm up to them, and then they warm up to the temperature, and then what I like to do is I like to assimilate my fish. I'm going to get them in a bucket. You're going to take the fish, you're going to put it in the bucket of the water they came in, and you're going to take I made a homemade one. I'll have to, let me grab it real quick. Sorry. So this right here is a homemade, basically it's like an IV drip. Anytime I bring a new fish home, or I'm done quarantining fish, I'm about to put it in my display tank, this then goes in the water of the tank. You got a valve, and I clip this to the bucket they're in. I open this up, I siphon the hose, I get the drip started, and then I close this and adjust the drip. The aquarium water that they're going into is going to slowly drip into the water that you got them from the store in, and I let that sit for about 45 minutes to an hour until they get used to the new water. Example of that is when you go swimming, you jump right in, or you stick your toes in and see what the water feels like. If the water's really cold and you jump in and you ain't used to it, what happens? Same thing for the fish. You don't want to shock them. They've already gone through the stress of being shipped from the fish farm to the store. In the store, all these people coming in, tapping on the glass, kids going crazy in front of the tank, so they're stressed out. And then you come along, you buy them, they put them in another bag after scooping them out with a net, and they're not gentle about it. They put the net in there, then you bring it home, has that car ride home, and then they sit, so they're stressed out already. So the best thing you can do when you buy a fish and you bring it home, you know, going back to what we discussed before that, whether it's going into a quarantine tank or it's going in your display tank, you want to get them assimilated. Turn the lights down low, dim the lights, or turn them off. I just turn mine off. The more you can do to reduce the stress in your fish, the better. So, okay, blah blah blah. We've done all that. The fish has been assimilated. You put the fish in the tank and just monitor them. Watch them. This is the part where if it's not broke, don't fix it. And the same goes for your aquarium and all of your equipment. If you're bored and you found out, this isn't as hard as it was, the fish are doing great, and you like the hobby and you want to do stuff, there's lots of other things you can do. Maybe get a second aquarium. You can always do DIY projects, change your decor in your tank. And fish love it when you change up their decor. They're not so bored. They don't see the same thing every day in their little glass box. They got different things to discover. Every time I do a water change, I change my stuff around a little bit. It gives them something new to discover. Maybe you wanna look up different things you can do with your lids. Maybe there's something you can do to make your filter more efficient, or like, hey, let's get some pre-filters. I'll put a pre-filter on my filter because, additional beneficial bacteria can grow on that. Plus, especially on hang-in-a-backs, if you have sand in an aquarium and you have a hang-in-a-back, sand gets into everything. I don't care what you do, it's going to get into everything. Pre-filters can help stop that. There's a lot of different projects you can think of when you have even just one aquarium to keep it interesting. And if time goes on and you're doing good and you've mastered that one aquarium, you feel, man, I want another one because I like the hobby. I'd like to keep more than one fish. There's plenty in this hobby to keep you busy, and the more tanks you have, obviously, the more busy you'll be. But one thing you should not do is mess with things that aren't broken. That's when you can get in trouble. That's when you can start losing fish. If you do water changes too frequently, if you clean your filters too frequently, you're going to take out too much good bacteria. And once you take too much good bacteria out, your tank can start another mini cycle. It can start to crash. And the only thing that suffers on that is your fish, not you. Unless you really care about your fish, you don't suffer. The fish suffers. So, please you don't have to always be doing something in your tank. I'll come in here in the mornings and sit down after I feed them and just observe them and watch them. I'll enjoy watching the fish. Have you ever just actually sat down in front of each tank and observed every fish in each tank and watched them? It's really enjoyable, and you get to see their personalities. They get to know you. The more you do that, the less skittish they'll be, and the less they'll jet away and hide under something. They'll get used to you, and you create that relationship. Everybody, I hear people saying, I seen this video of the guy petting his fish. He'd stick his hand in and he'll come right up and he'll pet him. Well, he didn't get there by not spending time and observing and looking. The point of the hobby is to enjoy this and watch the fish, not for it to be a chore. You don't need to constantly be doing something. But if that's what the hobby is about for you, great. You can definitely do that as well. But don't do it to the point where you're starting to interrupt the environment of the fish and change it so much that it's actually becoming a problem. Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Plain and simple. I look around and I look at all my tanks. Everything's doing good. Yesterday morning, Saturday morning, I woke up and one of my blue dwarf gourmets were dead. Out of nowhere. I don't know what happened. It was fine yesterday. Point is, I don't care how experienced you are or who you are, this is going to happen. You're just going to lose fish every once in a while. There could be a million factors involved, or there could be none. Sometimes fish just die. You don't know what happens. I saw him, he was upside down between my one heater and the back glass of the wall. I don't know what happened. He was fine. I had 4. I'm down to 2. I heard that the dwarf gouramis have an incurable disease of a bloat of some kind. If anybody knows anything about that and could help educate me more on that disease in the dwarf gouramis, please comment. Let me know, because I've been asking and I haven't really got an answer. But yeah, sometimes crap happens. There's nothing you can do about it. It doesn't mean you're a bad fish keeper. And other times stuff does happen because of the mistakes you made. But we all make mistakes. We're all learning. It's going to happen. Yeah, please, whatever you do, enjoy the hobby. Don't make it a chore. If it's not broken, don't fix it. I probably said that enough. I'm probably getting sick of hearing it. I get it. I get that way. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tanks running right now, and 9. And I'm always wanting to do something. I'm running 9 tanks, and they're all great. I test my water weekly. I do bi-weekly water changes. I feed my fish once a day. All my water parameters are great. Sometimes I sit in here and I do think, what can I do? I want to play with my tanks today. What can I do? What can I change? Then I stop. I say, look, the fish look happy. They're all swimming around. They're not stressed out. The water's great. And I keep fish of all different kinds. Over here in this 125, I've got goldfish in with tropical fish. Because goldfish do have they're a cold water fish, but they have a range that they can be fine and live in with tropical fish. Some people might not like that, but they've been in there a while and they're fine and they like it. But that kind of brings me back to the one point I started about the cichlids. Everyone says, oh, they got to have the right pH, they got to have the right pH. Yes, if you want them to thrive, the genetics of the fish, they need a higher pH. That's where they're from. It's in their genetics. Will that help them if you replicate that tank more suited to what they're used to? Yes, and I do. I have raised the pH in my tank naturally by using crushed coral. Every time I do a water change, I add in the recommended dose for mbunas with cichlid lake salt, because that's not just a salt, it adds minerals in the tank that they can use to thrive. But my pH is nowhere near what is recommended for them. With cichlids, you want a pH around 7-8. Some people go 8.0. I think mine's sitting at 7.6 consistently, and that's with 2 big bags of crushed coral sitting in there. And I have Texas Holy Rock in there filled, and that's as high as my pH wants to go. I even bought the Malawi Victoria buffer, but I haven't put it in yet. Why change it? And it's just another product you have to buy. More money you have to put into it. Every cichlid in there has grown great. They're getting big. They eat. They're active. Maybe I'm lucky too, because they're not very aggressive. They do chase each other. Cichlids have attitude. That's what they're going to do. But the tank is great. The fish are healthy, and I have not raised the pH to the recommended amount of or level of pH should be. They have adapted to my water. Every fish I add, I assimilate. They get used to it. I put them in. I do water changes. I have never lost a fish because of a water change. I've never lost a fish because I didn't have the exact parameters or pH I should have. Sorry, my big pleco was chasing my goldfish and pinning them down. Never seen that one before. I'll show you. Hawk here was getting pinned down by this big monster. I don't know what happened, but he doesn't never usually do that. Sorry about the squirt. I don't know what that was about, but I had to get him off of there. But as you can see here, here's my, oh man, is that blurry. There, that's a little better. They all hid because I jumped up like that. Scared them. Also, if anybody knows what kind of, I'm assuming this is some kind of a dwarf cichlid. I got by accident. But if anybody knows what kind of cichlid that little guy is there on the left, please let me know. That guy. But I got an OB in here. I've got an Ace, ACI. I call him Ace. I've got a Bumblebee cichlid. I've got I don't know. There's like 10 in here. 10 different Mbunas, and they're all healthy. They're all doing great. Here's a couple big bags of crushed coral I put in here to help naturally keep that pH buffered. And I love what these Mbunas do. These deep caves they have built, they dig the sand out, and they got all their little houses, and they all have their own little territories. They've made some really cool little homes all throughout here. There's the ACI. He's curious. He's coming up. Great looking fish. When I got these guys, they were juveniles. They were little. You know, they're big, a lot bigger. There's a Rusty. Going great. So they're not really bothered by me because they know I'm the guy that comes and sees them, takes care of them, feeds them every day. They're looking great. There's a Bumblebee back there. You can see his reflection. Hey, buddy. So yeah, I do take certain steps to replicate their natural environment with the cichlid lake salt, and I have buffered the pH a little bit and keep it raised, but it's nowhere near the recommended pH level like I was saying for them, and they're doing great. Look at them, they're active, they eat crazy, they're looking great, they're growing. Down here with my tiger barb, same thing, you know, oh, you gotta have this for tiger barbs, you gotta have this for tiger barbs. Well, they're basically in the same water that these Mbunas are in, just the pH just isn't as high. Now, not any one tank is going to have the same water parameters. You know what I mean? I was just saying basically they're in the same water parameters, except the pH is a little lower in this tank, and they're prospering. They're doing great. They're growing. They're active. But the water parameters in this tank is not the same as this tank. You can have two of the same size dimension tanks side by side, use the same water, do everything exact same, and they're still going to be different. Now, in this 125 community tank, my pH is really low, and it's the only tank. It's like 6.8, and I don't know why this is the only tank with really low pH like that. I really don't. I do have this piece of driftwood because driftwood does bring some pH down, and I have this, but that's it. I don't know what else in this tank will be causing the pH to be lower. I got to figure that out. Got some Anubias plants. If anybody has any idea why pH might be lower in this tank, let me know. Big Pleco got a hair up his ass for some reason. Big Oscars. And really as time goes by, I'm really starting to enjoy these blood parrots more and more. A lot of personality. And I clean with my algae magnet. They chase that. They chase my finger. Very fun, enjoyable fish to interact with and have. You know, these guys get a lot of flack in the hobby because they are a hybrid and they're a mix between 3 different cichlids. And you don't see them in the wild. Their mouths are a little stuck open because that was just kind of like I don't know, a defect when they were being made, but they always look like they're smiling. These are really enjoyable fish. Super fun. They love tubiflex worms. They come out of the water for them tubiflex worms. And see who chase. Super. That is fun. A lot of personality. I really enjoy these guys. But yeah, man, I just wanted to make a video on, you know, we need to stop overreacting in this hobby and making it more complicated than it is. It does not have to be. Get the fish. You do some research on the fish you want, definitely. Because the fish do have different requirements. I'm not saying that. They have different requirements. But does it have to be to a T? I think you're going to find they're not as sensitive as you think. They're just not that sensitive as you think. Some fish, maybe like discus, they're a little bit more sensitive of fish. I don't keep discus. I want to, but mainly it's because of the cost of them. They're expensive fish to buy, but they are beautiful. But I don't know. I know I could keep them, and I definitely want to try it. I'm going to get some Bolivian rams. I heard that the water has to be really good for them. That's a theory that I want to test. I want to buy some of these rams. I want to get them. I got a tank that I can put them in, a 55-gallon tank, and put them in there, and I'm going to see how sensitive they really are. I heard, oh, they've got to have perfect parameters. Oh my God, they have to be perfect. Well, let's test that. Let's see. All right, well, yeah, well, thanks for spending some time with me on this Sunday. Just want to make a quick video. It's been a little bit while since I put a video out, and that is a topic I've been wanting to discuss with people for a little bit. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't go overboard with your aquarium. Don't go overboard with your fish. Keep it simple. Enjoy it. Don't make it a chore. That's kind of probably going to become the motto on my channel. Keep it simple. Keep it fun. Do not make it a chore. All right. Till next video, guys. Bye.